Everyone. This is our 10th session in Fun with Heroes. Okay, and we covered a lot of stories till date. So this week we are going to cover stories from December 7 to December 13, and there is a couple of stories from earlier Diwali time frame which we didn't cover. So let's get started. So these are the 6 people we are going to cover. So any idea, anyone you know?
Jawaharlal Nehru.
Yes, Jawaharlal Nehru, everyone knows. Yes, but anyone else?
Jawaharlal Nehru.
Yeah.
No.
No. Okay, fine. Yeah. So again we have scientists is there, some freedom fighters are.
Pandit Bal Krishna Sharma.
Yes. Who is the Pandit Krishna Sharma? Which one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Which one?
I've only heard of him.
Okay. Yes. So we come to that.
Not seen of him.
I think so that last one.
Last one. That's correct actually. Yeah.
What? It's correct. Yay!
Yes.
And one of the faces other than Jawaharlal Nehru seems familiar.
Okay, right. Okay, so we'll get started. Don't worry. Okay, so we'll get started. Let's see.
We'll soon learn.
Yeah, the first story is Jawaharlal Nehru. So Jawaharlal Nehru was born in Allahabad on 14th November 1889. Jawaharlal was the eldest son of Motilal Nehru, who was a renowned lawyer, a close associate of Mahatma Gandhi. And Motilal Nehru was also one of the freedom fighters. He was also president of Congress that time. So Jawaharlal Nehru was his eldest son. Jawaharlal Nehru was also popularly known as Pandit Nehru because he belonged to the Kashmiri Pandit community. He went to England for further studies and became a barrister. It was very normal that time. Right? Gandhiji was also a barrister, Sardar Patel was also a barrister. So Pandit Nehru was also.
What is barrister?
Barrister means a degree in law, is a lawyer. So someone who okay.
Advocate.
Advocate. Someone who practices the law. Yeah. So upon his return, he started his law practice in the Allahabad High Court. So he became a lawyer. Then it was a successful lawyer. But then he met in 1917 Mahatma Gandhi, and he was inspired by him. So he jumped into the freedom struggle non-cooperation movement that was started by Mahatma Gandhi and organized the first Kisan March in Pratapgarh district of Uttar Pradesh in 1920. And that's how the political and social journey of Jawaharlal Nehru started. He rose through the ranks of Indian National Congress and became one of its most important leaders. Yeah. In 1929, Jawaharlal Nehru was elected the president of the Lahore session of Indian National Congress. So every year, alternate year, there used to be a session and a new president was elected. So Nehru became the president in 1929. And under him, that was the first time that Congress adopted the goal for complete independence. Till then, they were asking for dominion status. But then they started the demand of complete independence, like Purna Swaraj. Okay. The India should be governed by Indians only. There should be no British. That was the demand.
Dominion status means?
Dominion status was earlier demand, okay, where while India, the administrative power will be with Indians, but it will be still part of the British Commonwealth, basically under British Parliament and British governance.
Oh.
Okay, so that was the earlier demand. Then in 1929, Congress adopted the resolution for complete independence, Purna Swaraj. Purna Swaraj was anyway advocated by other revolutionaries, Bhagat Singh and others, were also even Lala Lajpat Rai and Bal Gangadhar Tilak also advocated for the same thing, Purna Swaraj. Nehru was in prison several times during the freedom struggle due to his participation in various satyagrahas. कई बार जेल में गए
Civil disobedience too.
Yes, civil disobedience is a that is a non-cooperation movement. Basically, you will come out on streets and protest against the government and do not.
We won't obey the government.
Yes, will not obey the British government. Okay, that was the civil disobedience movement. Yes. So on August 7, 1942, Pandit Nehru moved the historic Quit India resolution at the Bombay session of Congress, and that was the launch of Quit India movement. But on the second day, all the leaders were arrested and put in jail. Jawaharlal Nehru was arrested and was jailed in Ahmednagar Fort till 1945. By the end of World War II, Nehru was being recognized as the Gandhi's political successor. Everyone knew that Nehru will be the next Prime Minister of India, the ultimate leader of India. He was a part of the Defense Committee formed by Congress as the Defense Council in the INA trials. We heard about this during the Bhulabhai Desai story, like when the INA officials were trialed at the Red Fort trial. Jawaharlal Nehru was also part of the Defense Committee. He came forward and defended them. On 15th August 1947, Jawaharlal Nehru became the first Prime Minister of the independent India. Till date, he remains the longest serving Prime Minister of the independent India. He was Prime Minister for 17 years.
Which year did he start being Prime Minister?
He became Prime Minister on 15th August 1947, and he remained Prime Minister till his death in 1964. So for 17 years, he was Prime Minister. Okay. And as the first Prime Minister of India, he played an important role in the establishment of higher education institutions, irrigation projects, and research organizations. So he initiated those projects. Basically, laid a foundation for the new India.
Aims too.
Yes, a lot of basically medical institutions, technical institutions, dams, science institutions, science organizations. So those were initiated, of course, because it's a new India and it needed all those infrastructure. So he initiated those reforms. Internationally, when there was a tension between America and Russia, the USSR, it was there, during the Cold War, Jawaharlal Nehru pioneered the policy of non-alignment and co-founded non-aligned movement of nations professing neutrality. This was something he advocated to the entire world, and that the people who are not aligned with Russia, people who are not aligned with America either. So non-alignment movement he started. That was his impact in the international community. Jawaharlal Nehru was also a prolific writer in English. He wrote a number of books, okay, like The Discovery of India, Glimpses of World History, and his own autobiography.
Letters from his father to his daughter.
Yes.
That's a book I have.
Yes, that's a collection of letters he wrote to Indira Gandhi, and his own autobiography, Toward Freedom. So, and those are quite a good books actually. The Discovery of India is made into a series as well, and ultimately he liked children, and that's why we celebrate his birthday, that is 14th November, as the Children's Day. So that is the story of Pandit Nehru. Here you can see the young Pandit Nehru on the left hand side. We have here, okay, and this is the historic photo where Jawaharlal Nehru is taking oath as the
This is my book.
Yeah, the first Prime Minister of India. Okay, you can see the Lord Mountbatten is here, and the other leaders are here. So this is the historic moment, okay, when he took the oath as the first Prime Minister of India. So that's the story of Jawaharlal Nehru. We move on to the next story. Next story we have is Bilbal Sahani. Was again born on 14th November. So Bilbal Sahani was born on 14th November 1891 at a small town of Bhera in Sahapur district of Punjab, which is now in Pakistan. His father Ruchiram Sahani had worked with the great minds of physics of that era, including Rutherford, Thomson, and Bohr. Okay, these are very eminent scientists of the era, and some of them also won Nobel Prize. And so Ruchira Sahni had set up Punjab Science Institute in Lahore. So Birbal Sahni brought up in a science culture. Okay, and that made a huge impact on his life. Since childhood, Birbal Sahni developed interest in botany during the long treks with his father. And what is botany? Botany is the study of plants, yeah, flowers, plants. Uh, so that's the study of botany. So he developed the interest since the young age when he used to trek with his father. Then he went to England and graduated from Cambridge. He worked with Professor Shivard on a revision of Indian Gondwana plants. And for his study of fossil plants, he received DSc in 1919 from the University of London. He continued his study and ultimately did a research in that area. In 1921, he came back and became the first professor of the newly opened botany department of the London University. Sahani was a great teacher and a superb communicator of science. He was master in preparing fossil and rock specimens. He was quite an expert in that, creating plant fossils and rock specimens. And he was also quite good at popularizing the science. So he made the botany famous, interesting among his students. He was the first botanist to be conferred the fellowship of the Royal Society in 1936. As I mentioned, this fellowship is one of the important part of one important medal for a scientist. Just a second.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry, I went on mute. Yeah, so he was the first botanist to be given that prize, first Indian botanist. Sahni's research covered almost all aspects of paleobotany in India. What is a paleobotany? It's a fossil study of plants. Okay. So, and what is fossils? We have seen like dinosaur के fossils होते हैं and other
plants which have
fossils.
been
So there are
buried in
fossils.
sand for a long time. Any thing.
Yes. Yeah. So now there is a study about animals as well, dinosaurs as well, other, and similarly, Sahani did a study of the fossil plants. Okay. And he laid the foundation of fossil research in India. He was multi-talented and had keen interest in music, chess, tennis, clay modeling, Sanskrit, a lot of other things. By analyzing the fossils, Sahni was able to reconstruct extinct plants the way people reconstruct like dinosaur models. He used to do the same with the plants. Okay. And that's how he helped understand the evolution history of Indian plants. Okay. He studied those fossils and his discoveries helped understand how the plants have evolved in India. So before thousands of years before, how they used to look like. So that's his contribution to the science. His work on the technique of casting coins in ancient India set a new standard in archaeological research in India. So he was not limited to just study of plants and the fossil plants. He also wrote a book on how the coins were casted or coins were made in ancient India, and that made an important contribution in the archaeological research in India, yeah, about the earlier era. He was also the founder member of the Indian Botanical Society. He founded the Institute of Paleobotany at Lucknow. Yeah, that was one of his dream projects. But
What's
because of his sudden death,
paleobotany?
paleobotany is basically botany is a study of plants. Paleobotany is study of fossil plants. Okay, so as I mentioned, so that was one of his contribution to the Indian research, right? The fossil study of plants. And the paleobotany is that name of that field of science. So, but he suddenly died. So his wife Savitri Puri Suri completed the project and made it famous. Yeah, the institute was also later named as the Birbal Sahni Institute of Paleobotany in 1969, which is still there. And when he was studying at Cambridge, he was the classmate of Jawaharlal Nehru, Birbal Sahni, and both shared the birth dates. Right? And Jawaharlal Nehru was the one, as a prime minister, who laid the foundation stone of the Sahni's Institute in 1949. So that's the story of Birbal Sahni, who made botany and paleobotany famous in India. The third story we have is Pandit Balkrishna Sharma. So Pandit Balkrishna Sharma was born on 8th December 1897 in Bhayana village of Madhya Pradesh. Due to poverty, he started his formal education late and was enrolled in local school in Sajapur. He passed the matriculation examination, which is like a board exam, in 1917 from Ujjain. And here in Ujjain, he met the renowned poet Makhanlal Chaturvedi and journalist Ganesh Shankar Vidyarthi. He met them in Ujjain. He then moved to Kanpur in the ashram of Ganesh Shankar Vidyarthi and got enrolled in Christ Church College. Now, during the non-cooperation movement, which was started by Gandhiji, Balkrishna Sharma left the college and jumped into the nationalist movement. So, like many other people of that time, he left the college in midway and joined the movement. During the freedom struggle, he went to jail multiple times and became one of the leading politicians of Uttar Pradesh at that time. He also became the editor of revolutionary newspaper Pratap after the death of Vidyarthi. The Pratap was a revolutionary newspaper, Hindi newspaper, that was started by Ganesh Shankar Vidyarthi. So when Vidyarthi died in 1931, Balkrishna Sharma took the responsibility of running that newspaper. He became the editor of that newspaper. He was nominated to the Constitution Assembly from the United Province, which is now called as Uttar Pradesh. The Constitution Assembly was responsible for drafting the Constitution. Post-independence, he was elected to Lok Sabha in 1952 and then to Rajya Sabha. So that is his political journey. He was also an important member of the Official Language Commission that was established in 1955. So he was a part of that thing representing Hindi. So apart from his political work, Sharma was a progressive poet of Hindi. Since his college days, he had written under the pen name of Naveen. So under the title of Naveen, he used to write poems. And some of his notable works include Apalak, Vasti, Kumkum, Vinoba Savan, Urmila, and many others. He was a very famous Hindi poet. And Balkrishna Naveen was awarded Padma Bhushan, okay, the third highest civilian honor in India in 1960 in the field of literature and education. That is the story of Pandit Balkrishna. The next story we have is C. Rajagopalachari, Chakravarti Rajagopalachari. So he was born in the village of Thorapalli in the Krishnagiri district of Tamil Nadu on 10 December 1878. Rajagopalachari was fondly known as Rajaji. Normally that is how we refer to him. So Rajaji studied law from the Presidency College in Madras and began practice in Salem in the year 1900. So he was a lawyer. He became the chairperson of the municipality of Salem in 1917 and served there for 2 years. He founded the Tamil Scientific Term Society that translated complex scientific terms into simple Tamil language. Rajaji was a multifaceted personality. He was a politician, he was a statesman, he was a author, poet. He also worked towards science. Okay. So he founded the society which translated the complex scientific terms from English to simple Tamil language so that it becomes popular among the local people. He was a close friend of the founder of the Swadeshi Steam Navigation Company, VOC Pillai. VOC Pillai was another hero. Someday we'll talk about his story. So Rajaji was a close friend of VOC Pillai. In 1990, Rajaji actively participated in the agitations against the Rowlatt Act and participated in the non-cooperation movement. He gave up his law practice and became a follower of Mahatma Gandhi's non-cooperation movement. He was also involved in the Vaikom Satyagraha movement against untouchability during 1924-25. So there was, and during the Salt Satyagraha, the Dandi March जो गांधी जी ने किया था, so Dandi March happened in Gujarat. Similarly, Rajagopalachari did a similar march in Tamil Nadu and broke the salt law at the Vedarayana in Madras presidency. तो जैसे गांधी जी दांडी में जो काम किया था, Rajagopalachari did the same thing in Madras presidency. Following the elections in 1937, Rajaji became the first premier of the Madras presidency. Premier is similar to the chief minister right now. So he became the first premier of the Madras presidency. As a premier, he opened the doors of the temple for Dalits. He also introduced prohibition of alcohol in the state. So he prohibited alcohol in Tamil Nadu state, the time of Madras presidency state. He resigned in the protest over the declaration of war by the Viceroy of India without the consent of Indian leaders. So in 1940, he resigned from there. And because of his protest against the declaration of war, he was arrested in 1940. During the Quit India movement, again he was jailed. He was one of the leaders actually who opposed the Quit India movement because he was not in favor of that idea at that time. He was also instrumental in negotiating between Gandhi and Jinnah. So he initiated negotiations between Gandhi and Jinnah. Jinnah was leading the Muslim League that time, and there was a lot of conflict. So Rajaji was the one who is acting as a buffer between these two parties. Rajaji realized very early that partition is the only solution for gaining the independence, and he came up with a proposal known as a CR formula. He was highly criticized for that thing that time, but ultimately that became the reality by 1947. The United India was partitioned ultimately. In the interim government before the independence, just before the independence, there was an interim government that had both Congress members and the Muslim League members. Rajaji served as the Minister for Industry, Supply, Education and Finance in that government. At the time of partition, Rajaji was appointed as the Governor of West Bengal, and he saw the settlement of refugees after the riots. There was a lot of riot because of the partition, especially in Bengal and Punjab regions. Rajaji was the governor of Bengal that time. He saw the settlement of refugees. Lord Mountbatten was the first Governor General of independent India, right? But after he left, Rajaji became the first Indian Governor General of independent India. He was also the last one. Okay, the position he held till 26 January 1950. On that day, the new constitution came in picture, and the head of state is replaced by the President of India, and Dr. Rajendra Prasad became the president. After Sardar Patel's death, Rajaji became the India's second Home Minister. He had warned against the expansionist policies of China. He was against the linguistic division of states. Then he had developed differences with Pandit Nehru, and he resigned from Congress. He later became Chief Minister of Madras State in 1952. He formed his own party, Swatantra Party, and that became the single largest opposition party in Lok Sabha in 1967. And in Madras State, which is how it was known then, okay, the Tamil Nadu state was known that way. They under C.N. Annadurai, they also formed the government in Madras State. Apart from his political work, Rajaji was also an accomplished writer in Tamil, English, and one of the founders of Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, an organization dedicated to the promotion of education and Indian culture. For his literacy work, he was given Sahitya Akademi Award in 1958 for his Tamil translation or Tamil retelling of Ramayana, which is known as Chakravarti Thirumagan. So that's his contribution to the literature. He also did a lot of other Tamil work, including Mahabharata and other things. He was considered one of the wisest men of India, Rajaji. And he was honored with Bharat Ratna. He was one of the first person to be honored with Bharat Ratna. So that's the story of Rajaji. Here we can see the young Rajaji with Mahatma Gandhi, and this is the book on Ramayana, for which he was given the Sahitya Akademi Award. If we are running out of time, okay, we'll reconnect. Okay, is that fine?
Yes.
So after this story, I think we will reconnect. So the Prafullit Chakri story is we already covered Khudiram Bose story last week. The Prafullit Chakri story is associated with Khudiram Bose story. Okay. So Prafullit Chakri was born in Bogra district of Bengal Presidency on 10 December 1888. Young Prafulla was expelled from his school for taking part in students' demonstration against the British. He then joined Rangpur National School, and here he came in contact with the revolutionaries who were associated with the Anushilan Samiti and Jugantar Party. Impressed by Prafulla, Barinder Kumar Ghosh was another revolutionary who brought him to Calcutta, where he joined the Jugantar movement. He was given the assignment to kill Sir Joseph Bampfylde Fuller, the first lieutenant governor of the new province of the Eastern Bengal and Assam. So there was a plan to kill him, this British officer, but it never happened. Now Douglas Kingsford was the chief magistrate of Alipur, and he was known for passing harsh and cruel punishment to Indian revolutionaries. So he had given cruel imprisonment to Jugantar revolutionaries. He had tried very hard to crush that movement. So Anushilan Samiti decided to kill Kingsford. So two young revolutionaries, Khudiram Bose and Prafullit Chakri, were given the task to kill Kingsford. So on 19 April 1908, both of them pretended to be schoolboys and waited for the horse carriage of Kingsford in Muzaffarpur. As soon as the carriage arrived, they threw the bombs, but unfortunately they threw bombs at the wrong carriage. So two English women were killed, but Kingsford was not harmed. He survived. After the attack, Khudiram Bose and Prafullit Chakri managed to escape through separate routes. A bounty of 1,000 rupees that time was announced on both of them. So to provide information, which heard about Khudiram was how he was captured, and the Prafullit Chakri reached Sabastipur, where he was given shelter and clothing by the railway staff. He provided Prafulla with a train ticket to Mokama, but while he was traveling through train, he was identified and cornered. He was about to get arrested. He tried to run, but he realized that there is no point in running, so he killed himself by firing 2 shots to himself. And that is the story of Prafullit Chakri. Khudiram Bose was ultimately arrested and hanged. So that's the story of 2 revolutionaries. So at this, the last story we have is of Subramanya Bharati. So who was Subramanya Bharati? So Subramanya Bharati was born on 18th December 1882 in the village of Etayapuram in Tamil Nadu. Around the age of 11, he was conferred the title of Bharati, the one blessed with goddess Saraswati. So Bharati was a title given to him. Like a Pandit, he was given the title Bharati, the one blessed with goddess Saraswati, because he was very good in poetry. He excelled. Okay, he wrote later in his life, he wrote wonderful poems, especially in Tamil. Okay. And that's why he is referred as a Bharati. After initially working as a Tamil teacher, Bharati started his career in journalism. He was a gifted poet who fought for nationalism. In 1905, he attended the All India Congress session held in Banaras. Just a second. Okay. Yeah. So Bharati was a gifted poet who fought for nationalism. He attended the All India Congress session in 1905, which was held in Banaras. Okay, he was very inspired by the nationalism. So he used his proficiency over language to write articles criticizing British and promote nationalism among the people. He started editing the Tamil weekly India and the English newspaper Bala Bharatam. And his writings become very famous. People used to buy newspapers just to read his writings. His poems started getting published in these editions. During the historic Surat session of Congress in 1907, he supported the nationalist section led by Bal Gangadhar Tilak. For his writings, he was exiled from British India in 1908. He was asked to leave British India. So he went to live in the French colony in Pondicherry. So at that time, Pondicherry was under French. So Bharati went there and lived there. He continued publications from Pondicherry though they were banned by British in India. So his publications were banned by British in India, but he continued those from Pondicherry. And during his exile in Pondicherry, he met other leaders like Aurobindo Ghosh, Lala Lajpat Rai, and VVS Iyer, who were also staying in Pondicherry at that time. And this is the time when he started learning Vedic literature, and three of his greatest poems, namely Kuil Pattu, Panchali Sapatam, and Kannan Pattu, were composed during this time while he was in exile. He composed this work. Subramanian Bharati was well versed in 14 languages. He knew 14 languages, but most of his literary work is in Tamil. His work covered a wide range of subjects, including Indian nationalism, spirituality, Russian revolutions, French revolutions, and all those topics he wrote poems inspired by those. In 1918, after 10 years, he returned to Madras, but he was arrested and later released. In 1919, he met Mahatma Gandhi when Mahatma Gandhi came to Tamil Nadu. So he met him. Bharati's health was badly affected because of the frequent imprisonment, exile, and he was also very poor. He didn't have much money. So his health deteriorated rapidly. Ultimately, he died at the young age of 39 years only. But his work in literature is similar to that of Shakespeare in English. Like in English, Shakespeare is considered one of the landmark. Similarly, in Tamil language, Bharati's writing is considered having the same status. Yeah. His writing sparked a renaissance in Tamil literature. Bharati imagined the liberation of Indians both from British imperial rule and also from the centuries-old oppressive social customs. Okay. His work is translated into all major Indian languages and also some European languages. So that's the impact of Subramanian Bharati. He is popularly known as Mahakavi, a great poet in Tamil. So that's the story of Subramanian Bharati. And this is his house in Pondicherry, which is now converted into a museum, the Mahakavi Bharatiya. Right. So this, yeah, now we know the names, right? Can you name them? The first one is Birbal Sahani. Second one is Subramanian Bharati. Third one is
Bharati.
yes, Rajaji or C.
Rajagopalachari.
Yes, and Jawaharlal Nehru, we all know. This is Prafulla Chaki and Pandit Balkrishna Sharma.
Pandit, that last one. Pandit.
Yeah, Balkrishna Sharma. Yes.
Pandit
These are-
Krishna.
Sharma. Okay, Pandit Sharma. So these are the stories. Now, fun time. Okay, the quiz time.
Alipur bombing.
Alipur bombing. When we talk about this thing, who all are associated with it? There are multiple answers to it.
Prafulla Chaki and Khudiram Bose.
Perfect, very good. Yes, Khudiram Bose story we heard last time. This week we had Prafulla Chaki. Both were involved in Alipur bombing, the attempt to kill Kingsford, who was the magistrate of Alipur. Right. Now, who is known as a Mahakavi? We just
Subramanian Bharati.
Subramanian Bharati. Yes, perfect. Vibhav Bharati is also known as a Mahakavi. Who was the last Governor General of India? Sardar.
Rajagopalachari.
Correct? Yes. So C. Rajagopalachari was the last Governor General of India. And the simple name, children.
Jawaharlal Nehru.
You were
Jawaharlal.
this we all know.
We have an autobiography, a part of his autobiography in our English lessons.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, so Jawaharlal Nehru's birthday, that is 14th November, is celebrated as the Children's Day in India. But do you know, okay, which day is the International Children's Day?
No.
Anyone? Do you know?
No.
So 14th November is the Children's Day in India, but internationally Children's Day is different, which was already there. Okay, even
15th November.
no, it's a
15th November.
20th November. 20th November is the International Children's Day. So other countries other than India, 20th November is celebrated as the Indian Children's Day. Okay, so that's all we have for today. So thank you for attending. Okay, if you have any questions, any doubts, anything you want to discuss, okay,